Deuce close. Mastering Madden.
I've been playing a lot of draft champs lately, so I've had to simplify and universalize my schemes to fit, any playbook that I'm given, including my Redzone package. So I want to share that with you, a way that we can easily and consistently score against any coverage when we get to the red zone. Because let's face it, we can all move the ball up and down the field, but when we get within the 15, within the 10, within the 5, things start to kind of get a little bit tricky. And then I think, I can speak for a lot of people, you have to settle for a lot of field goals, and of course you just don't want to do that. So like I said, we are simplifying and universalizing this whole thing so we can really do this out of any formation, any playbook and most formations. So just playing around with it a little bit, what I found is a simple route combination that we can use really inside the 10, anywhere where your opponent starts to use hard flats, and how we can easily score against that. So you're gonna find, I haven't tested it in every single formation like this, but I would just go out and find a trips formation. So Y off trio at a single back here will work, but other trips formations at a shotgun or pistol, or other ones in single back should work out for you. And then the play isn't really important. I'm just gonna pick stick here because it's just one less hot route I need to make. So I'm gonna do that, and then on defense, I'm going to come out in cover 4 drop show 2. I know there were some complaints in the last red zone video that didn't go over that, so I'm gonna make sure to do that. And the adjustment, it's really just gonna be, there's gonna be a user on one of these hooks, there's gonna be hard flats, and then there's 8 zones that are really kind of hard to maneuver around, especially since you don't want to be anywhere around this user. Okay, so we're trying to not throw towards the middle of the field. So the route combination that I found gives us the best chance of scoring, and we're going to kind of hit that outside part of the red zone or the end zone there, is really just a smoke screen from our number 1 wide receiver, an out from a number 2, and you could leave it as a regular out or smart route that to the end zone, and then a fade from the number 3 wide receiver. So this smoke gives us a lot more room. So the hard flat is going to come down on that, and we are just going to throw it above him and underneath the deeper zone, so in this case the deep quarter, to our number 2 wide receiver. It's going to look just like this, and then we're just going to possession catch that, and we get our easy touchdown. So assuming you don't have a horrible wide receiver, it's really something that there's nothing that can be done here. So assuming that, of course, there is a hard flat here, so the hard flat's going to come down on the smoke screen better than he would against, say, a flat route from the number 2 or 3, so that you get a little bit more room, and then you have this out that's, if you throw it outside and maybe a little bit down, so maybe like 8 o'clock, 8:30, something like that, this cornerback is never going to be able to make a play. You just possession catch that and get an easy touchdown. The reason why I put a fade on the number 3 receiver, it does a little bit better of a job at holding that deep quarter from the corner. So let's just show that again with just a regular streak. That corner does a bit better of a job there. So you see that? So it's kind of important that we throw a fade on the number 3, or you can find a situation where he's a little bit more out like this, and in that case that should also hold him a little bit more because he starts to get in that area. So let me just reset that, and then we're going to go ahead and show you against all of these. So Tampa 2 with hard flats. And luckily for us, luckily for you, it's the same route combination. Okay, so nothing changes. And here, you just have a lot of room right there. Possession catch that. Easy touchdown. And then, a lot of cases I believe you should even be able to, you can even leave this stock out. You don't always have to smart route it. And you can just throw that with a forward pass lead just like that if you want, but it's probably not really necessary. And then against cover 3, this works even better because that cornerback, that outside third, has to drift further and sometimes even in to account for this fade here, because he then becomes the next vertical route, and then he starts to kind of key on him, and then you get a lot more room. Just like that. And things are a lot easier. If I haven't mentioned it already, of course you want the trips to the boundary here. if you're set up to the field here, the ball's just in the air for too long, and those defenders can make a play on it. Okay, so you want it around here. The sweet spot, in my opinion, is anywhere between kind of this area, 4 to 10 yards. At this point, say 10 to 15 yards, it's still going to work for you. I'm not going to go through them, but it's going to work. But the only thing is that your opponent is probably less likely to use hard flats at that point. And so then in that case, you'd have to check down underneath to the smoke screen or to something else, because that out route probably won't get open. At this point, I wouldn't even think about it. Here still kind of works. So I'm going to go like maybe just right here. But things start to get a little bit tighter. Okay. So same route combination, go hard flat, and I'll just show you how things get tighter. Just like that, but we can still fit it in. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and show it against the other ones as well. Let's go cover Tampa 2 with hard flats. At this point, what I suggested before, where you do outside and kind of down pass lead, like an 8-8-30, I'd start to kind of go away from that at the 5-yard line, and closer, I'd start to maybe do a little bit of a forward pass lead, because sometimes that hard flat can undercut that and pick that up. I'd also be wary of the play that you call. So if you're doing a quick pass, like a stick, you have this weird pass blocking. You see these short kind of stems coming out of the offensive line. Those tend to get sacked a lot more than, say, if I were to convert to verticals. In shotgun, at least, maybe. I think it's just a single back issue, where sometimes you saw in the last play, the D-line just comes flying through for no reason at all. So I'd be wary about single back because of that. Okay, so where am I here? Let's go back to Tampa 2 with the hard flats. So in this case, the hard flat might undercut, just like that. So I would either, maybe stay away from it at that point, or try to add a little bit of a forward pass lead. Oops, this is cover 3. So let's try that again with a little bit of a forward pass lead, just like that. Okay, so, I think it's a really, really great passing concept for the red zone, probably the best, but it's still going to take you a couple minutes in practice mode just to really understand at what yardage, what type of pass lead you want. Always going to be outside. Sometimes it's down, sometimes it's forward added to that. Let's go ahead with the cover 3 sky with hard flats. This is always going to be the easiest one for us to work in there, just because all that space right there. Easy stuff. Okay, and I like this because, like I was saying before, we can really do this at any playbook. We don't have to worry about a certain play or formation. Maybe a lot of the formations can do this, and then it's just based off out routes. So if you are playing draft champs, it's going to work nicely for you. Other things that you can work off of that when things start to get tight in the red zone, like say if I were to move up to the 3-yard line or so, and I think I showed this in the other video, is just a little concept to work off of that. This idea of the in-flat slant combination is going to work nicely against cover 4 and cover 3, where you just kind of throw it into that sweet pocket right there. And so again, this is going to be away from the user. You don't have to worry about it. It's quick. You don't really have to worry about the pass rush. Let's also show that against cover 3. Again, this is assuming with hard flats. It doesn't work so well when they're not shading underneath. But at this point, you can just assume anybody half decent is going to be using hard flats there. The thing to note about at this point doing that, it doesn't really work so well against cover 2. So if you have a slant here or an in, the slant is probably better in general, because if you do come up against cover 2, not expecting, you can just wait for him to clear above the hook, and you can throw a high point pass there. Okay, so those are kind of two little things really coming from the exact same look. So it's going to be trips set to the boundary. The one is going to be smoke screen, smart route it out, and a fade. And, we're just going to throw that out route every single time and get easy touchdowns there. Or a combination like this, where we have it in from the number 3, or a slant or a drag, and then a flat, and then a slant or in from number 1. Okay? And then, yeah, like, you know, I could even back this up further out here. I could show you, you know, the things are just, they're going to work out for us nicely. Again, you know, maybe at that point, maybe your opponent isn't running hard flats there, but in that case, and actually let me just show you here. So if they're not running hard flats, the curl flat's going to sink, and then you can kind of just throw that underneath, which isn't great, but it's at least an option to get you maybe a few yards closer, and then they'll be running that hard flat there. Okay, so a lot of great things, and then maybe you can pick a formation that has a good run based off of that. So maybe a toss or maybe a stretch or something like that, so you're not always doing that. And yeah, I think that's really good. I don't know what else to say. Let's show it one more time against, I don't know, Tampa 2. There's always going to be a really big hole there, and people just don't really see that too often. I don't see, you know, I think in general I put hard flats out there, and I never really come across situations where that area of the field's really exposed. And I think people aren't really willing to attack it, but I think it's really easy to do that. Okay, again, smoke screen, smart route it out, fade route, and you're going to be golden, especially in draft champs where you really don't have the playbooks that you like. You can just create this out of almost anything. Okay, I hope you guys liked that video. Much shorter one than usual, but we're going to kind of keep going more and more with the next coming weeks. Hopefully a lot more tips than usual. Okay, we'll see you in the next one.